Welcome to Priceless Takes.
And we are live from Gold Coast, Australia. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 31. I am your host, Luka Price, and joining me today are my two fabulous guests, one, Oscar Hardcastle and Reuben Lind. Guys, how are you today?
Very good.
Fantastic. After my last week's predictions.
Unfortunately, our third renowned guest, Tyson McMullen, is not available to be with us today, but the show must go on, so Reuben and Oscar will hold down the fort for us in this episode. What a week we have had of NBA action. There have been some highs, there have been some lows, and there have been some unfortunate disappointments, which we're going to get into. But, ladies and gentlemen, for you today, we're going to talk about the most recent playoff series and the game recaps from those, and then we're going to get into our predictions for the conference finals for the 2022-2023 NBA playoffs. But we will get straight into it because this has been one of the most talked about topics on our show in its history, one of the most constantly debated topics. And finally, results were pushed to sleep. Teams are no longer in. We are talking about the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Boston Celtics took out Philadelphia in a 7-game series. They thumped them in Game 7, winning 112-88. Jason Tatum, an NBA record, 51 points in the matchup, 17 of 28 shooting, 6 of 10 from three-pointers. But the story of the game was Joel Embiid and James Harden's absolute nightmare of a Game 7 performance. And I'm not going to speak too much about the stats just now. I'm going to get Oscar and Reuben to give me their opinions. I'm going to start with Reuben because, Reuben, I think you're a bit more neutral on this topic compared to Oscar and I, who had some back and forth throughout the previous episode. So I want to get your thoughts of what happened in Game 7, and are you surprised with how this series turned out?
Oh my God. Joel Embiid, biggest fraud. People try to tell me that Joel Embiid is better than Nikola Jokic got immediately shut down last night. Like, he has never made a conference final in his entire life, and I don't see him ever making one. Okay, going back on topic. Celtics versus the 76ers. Originally, I did have the Celtics, but I saw how they performed against the Hawks, and I saw there were some red flags, and I saw how they did against the Nets, and that's why I was convinced it was Philadelphia. And then they had a 3-2 lead. They were looking really good. And then Game 7, Embiid and Harden, as you said, had a complete shutdown. How is your MVP going to shoot 5 of 18 from field, 0 of 4 from 3, have 4 turnovers, and shoot 28% from the field? And we got to blame Harden as well. He's got to take some accountability. I love James Harden. I've seen glimpses of where he could get 40-plus points, 10-plus assists. But
glimpses? He did it for a whole season.
James Harden had a quadruple single. A quadruple single last night. That is not good enough to be the second best player in the team. 9 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 turnovers. Like 27% from the floor, 20% from 3. That's not good enough. And look, we can't all put the blame on Harden and Embiid. I think Doc Rivers deserves some of the blame too. Like, he keeps saying it's a make or miss league, make or miss league. You got to put Harden and Embiid into the right track to get them back onto that winning mentality. Because looking at Doc Rivers, since 2003, he's blown 3-3-1 leads. He's blown 4-3-2 leads. Like, that's not good enough for a coach. He's got to be gone. And I think for the 76ers, they've got to be looking for a rebuild now. Because they're one of the franchises that needs to win now. I would blow it up and completely change it. It's not good enough. It's all, like, short-term. But anyway, that's all I've had to say, Oscar.
Okay. The shooting was woeful from every single player on that team. The shooting was absolute on the 76ers.
Are you talking about Game 7?
I think Tobias Harris
in Game 7, the shooting was completely woeful. You know, Joel Embiid shot horribly. James Harden shot horribly. Tobias Harris 1 for 4 from 3. His job is to shoot threes. He took that step back role this year to sit in his corner and make shots. And he shot 1 for 4. Toby did play all right, but it does come back in a Game 7. It does come back to Joel Embiid. He played terribly. Do I think that Jokic is better? That's for another day, but no. But people saying that he doesn't deserve his MVP is ridiculous and things like that. It's a bad game. It's a bad game, and it can't happen. And even in that game six where they should have won it, they blew up in the fourth quarter, and they had a subpar fourth quarter in that game as well. So do I think it does? Do I think that they should blow up their team and rebuild? No, because you've got what do I got here. You've got Joel Embiid confirmed, guaranteed 185 million for the next 4 seasons. So how are you going to blow it up when you've got the next 4 years where you're paying him a ridiculous amount of money? You've got James Harden on a player option, which he
might leave. Yeah,
he might leave.
I think he'll go.
Yeah, I know he might want to go to the Rockets, back to the Rockets, which he said he might have interest in. But as he also said, they've only been together for what 1 or 2 years now, and he might come back and he might take his guaranteed 33 because I don't think he's getting 33 mil off anyone else. So do I think it was a horrible season for the 76ers? No, because we saw that they could be in that conference finals. They blew up at the last minute. I think they still have some good pieces. I think Tobias Harris needs to go. He's on too much money to stay there, and when he has a little bit of value left, they need to get as much as they can for him. I think they've got some good pieces. They still got Tyrese Maxey. Obviously, if they keep Embiid and James Harden together, which I think they played beautifully this season. Obviously, they were the second, third seed. They played beautifully in the regular season, and their pick and roll game was unbelievable all season. So I think it does come down to finding that third player. If it's Chris Middleton, Jeremy Grant, Kelly Oubre, finding a third scorer.
I don't think Jeremy Grant and Kelly Oubre are better than Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, I like Tyrese Maxey. I was going to say just get rid of Tobias and Harden.
I'm saying for a replacement for Tobias, a scorer that's actually going to be consistent for you. I'm not saying for Maxey. I think Maxey is fantastic. And then it's about cleaning up that bench. That bench, is subpar. No one can come off that bench and be fantastic. So, so
I've seen glimpses of D'Anthony Melton. He's a solid defender and he can shoot the ball. Like three ball decently.
Shut up, Reuben. He's not going to be your guy coming off the. He's not going to be your guy coming off the bench. That's going to be, that bench scorer or that bench defender. So I think they don't need to blow up the team. I don't think they need to do anything crazy like that. I just think they've got to.
Yeah.
They've got to, clean it up a little bit. I think Doc needs to get out of there.
Yeah.
I think Stan Van Gundy or Mike Malone is a better choice for either of the. For a replacement. So that's my spiel on him.
Look, I think you've raised a lot of interesting points, but I'm going to start from the top and answer the first question: is what happened in Game 7? And what happened in Game 7 is the Celtics stepped up, Jason Tatum stepped up, and Philadelphia could not match the production of Boston. And James Harden and Joel Embiid ultimately crumbled when the rubber met the road. And I wish I was a bit more passionate about this, but I'm not surprised because I knew this was going to happen all along. And in reality, the Celtics, in my opinion, this shouldn't have even been a 7-game series. I think the Celtics should have done it in 6. James Harden had a great game in Game 1 without Embiid, and he had another good game. So we know he was capable of having these games, but where was it in Game 7? He was an absolute no-show, and the same thing happens year after year after year. Embiid and Harden were 8 for 29 combined from the field, 1 for 9 from 3. Okay? That is absolutely atrocious from your two superstars in a Game 7. Now, Oscar, on the last episode, you told me that you were taking Philadelphia's star power over Boston's depth. And now you're going to tell me that Philadelphia is going to need more for their bench. Obviously, they're going to need more for the bench. This is what I've been saying the whole time. Because they don't have the depth like a Boston to compete. They don't have the depth like Boston do to compete. And ultimately, even for Boston, what I also said came true is that the depth kept their production and the stars played better. And we saw that from the fourth quarter in Game 6 when Tatum scored 16 points on his own and hit 5 threes to Game 7 where he set an all-time NBA record. Boston was only up 3 points at halftime, guys. This was a close game at halftime. And then Boston went on a 33-5 run in the third quarter, and it ended sort of in the beginning of the fourth quarter. Shot Philadelphia in the heart. The thing that annoyed me the most was Joel Embiid's quote after the game when he said, "Me and James can't win alone. That is why basketball is played 5-on-5." And I think this was an absolutely blasphemous statement because him and James Harden came up so small in that game 7. And the stats, honestly, I might get up the stats right now of the other players because I got it right here. So Tobias Harris was 7 for 13, PJ Tucker was 4 for 7, Maxey was 5 for 12, total of 16 for 32, 50%, 2 turnovers. Joel Embiid and James Harden, 8 for 29, 9 turnovers, 27.5% from the field. That can't happen. So ultimately, I'm not surprised with how this turned out because Philadelphia exposed themselves. They showed their true colors of the frauds that I always knew that they were, and I always knew
Luka,
that they would continue to be.
You say that quote is blasphemous, but when you look at the game 6, when James Harden, played pretty well and Joel Embiid balled out, you look at the rest of that team, PJ Tucker, 8 points, you look at Tobias, 2 points, you look at DeAnthony Melton, who played 23 minutes and scored 0 points, you look at House, who got 3, you got Georges, who got 6. These guys aren't performing. It is a game of 5-on-5. It's not a game on 2-on-5.
I agree.
And when your guys are performing and the rest of your team's not, you need to say something about it.
Well, listen.
And Joel, who's just won the MVP, can say whatever for whatever he wants.
Okay, yes.
And you need more from your squad.
You can't. These same players that he is slandering are the same players that got them to a game 7 in the first place. If they got knocked out in 5 games,
they should have won in 6.
No, if they got knocked out in 5 or 4 games and the rest of the players had absolute stinkers, then I would be like, and Joel and Harden balled out and averaged 30 points a game each. I'd be like, okay, maybe you have a valid point, but these same players got them to a game 7. So you can't, after you stink up the joint in a game 7, when the other team's best player drops 51 on your head, then go and say, "Oh, James and I can't do it on our own." He's scapegoating the rest of the team, and quite frankly, I was appalled. Now, we are going to have to move on. So I'm going to quickly say what I think Philadelphia needs to do in this offseason. I think Doc Rivers needs to go. He's 0-10 in game 7s all time. Now, I like Doc Rivers, but he can't get over. He just keeps hitting this brick wall, and he needs to go. Realistically, I don't know who they can really add to the team to make them better. I don't think they should blow it up, but I think really that's the problem because Tobias Harris is on a max contract. Tyrese Maxey's going to be eligible for a rookie max extension, and then you already have James Harden, who also is going to want an extension, but he hasn't really wanted to commit. He only took a 2-year contract in his last free agency cycle.
He said he wanted to go back to the Rockets.
So, look, we can talk about this in a later date, what Philadelphia should do in our next episode, because it'll definitely be some speculation in the offseason. But we're going to get to the other series that played out in between our last episode, and that was the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the Lakers closed out the Warriors in 6 games, eliminating them 122-101 in Game 6 at Staples. Lakers are 6-0 at home in the playoffs. LeBron had a 30-point game, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, and 71% field goal shooting. Austin Reeves had 23, and AD had 17 points, 20 rebounds to go along with it. Now, the Lakers never trailed in this game, and the team shot 50% from 3. Similar to how they finished off Memphis at home in Game 6. They did the exact same thing to the Warriors. Sorry about that, Reuben. But, Oscar, I'm going to ask you first. Unfortunately, we don't have Tyson, the resident Lakers fan, for his comments on this series. So, Oscar, I'm going to go to you. What were your thoughts on this series overall? And how do you think... Actually, no, I'm going to ask you just the first question. How do you think the series played out overall? What were your overall thoughts?
I mean, the Lakers... They showed why, they're better than the 7th seed, and they came into this playoffs looking like, looking fantastic and looking like a contending team. And in this series, they showed why. LeBron decided to do LeBron things, and AD was pretty good, and the rest of the team really stepped up. So when you look at it from a team or a series perspective, you got Golden State coming off a championship. People didn't show up for, some players didn't show up for them. And it was on the Lakers' point of view, most of those players turned up and said, we want to win this championship and we want to be in the finals. So, I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah,
Rubes?
look, I think the Lakers are a very well built team. Like I saw in the series, like I know in the Grizzlies series, AD was up and down, but I saw more ups than downs for Anthony Davis. I think he had one off game, but I think overall he performed well, and I think the matchup like really suited Anthony Davis because they don't really have a rim protector that can control Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
And I just think with the Warriors, they only have really Stephen Curry. Like they need Klay Thompson to step up. He didn't perform well. And what's going on with Jordan Poole? He was averaging above like 15 the playoffs last series, and I've seen like a couple of games where he was getting below 10 points. Like, what's going on with that? Like, and then the antics as well after what was it? It was like game four, I think, where he turned his back on the media. Like, that just doesn't look good for you and like your reputation. So I think going forward, if the Warriors want to be a successful team, I would not sure about Draymond Green quite yet, but I'd see what you could try and get for Jordan Poole because I just
Yeah.
think like you can't go forward with him. Like,
Uh,
because it just seems he wanted to get the bag. I don't want to assume anything,
I,
but
I, I
with the
don't,
way
I
he's
don't
been
know if you
performing, he
guys,
doesn't look like
I
he
don't know
wants
if
to
you guys
progress
know
any
this,
forward.
but he's getting paid $131 million for the
Yeah,
next 3 seasons or 4 seasons or something.
he's already gotten his money. He doesn't seem to be incentivized by anything else. And look, like going back to the Lakers, they're just a better team. Like saw Austin Reeves get 20, like D'Lo can pop off. They're a really well built team, the Lakers. So I'm not shocked about this at all.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, I agree. I think the reason why I picked the Lakers in this series, one, because I just thought AD was going to absolutely run roughshod over the Warriors, and that is what ended up happening. But that is the better team. And when you look at the depth the Lakers have, and you look at how the Warriors barely squeezed past the Sacramento Kings, I just believe that it was always going to be a hard task for the Warriors to beat the Lakers. But the whole Warriors team outside of Steph Curry really looked like a shell of themselves in the playoffs. Draymond Green had one good performance in game five. We thought he would have one good performance offensively, another 20-point game. But even in the game six, Steph had 32 points, but he didn't play particularly well. He shot 4 for 14 from three. That you got to be better than that in a
Yeah, it's not.
closeout
He didn't
game.
perform well, like percentage wise.
And when you look at Steph and Clay combined, they were just as bad as what we saw in the game seven with Embiid and Harden. They were 14 for 47 from the field and 6 of 26 from pointers. Now Clay Thompson was 3 of 19 from the field, so obviously he accounted for a large part of that. But still, that's not going to get it done. I agree with Jordan Poole, but Jordan Poole also got his minutes cut, which didn't help. But while he was on the court, he wasn't giving them the impact that he needed. And we saw him at the end of game one chuck up an absolute Hail Mary of a shot when there was still 8 seconds on the clock. And I think that was the beginning of the end of Jordan Poole in this series. But the thing for the Lakers, and what has continued to happen, and what I will believe will keep happening, is someone always steps up every single game. We saw, like I said in the previous episode, Lonnie Walker has just come out of nowhere and just provided some offensive production on the bench. We saw Hachimura step up in the Grizzlies series. We saw Austin Reeves step up last night. D'Angelo Russell also had 19 points last night, which I didn't mention in the rundown. But I want to know from you guys, Reuben, I'll ask you first, is do you believe the Golden State Warriors dynasty is over as we know it?
How would you define dynasty? Would you say Steph, Clay, and Draymond?
As in, I'd say, do you believe that the Warriors can continue to compete for championships and win championships with their current core group right now? Yes,
No,
Steph, Clay,
no.
Draymond. No.
No, I think they need to rebuild around Steph. I just don't think Clay used to be a really good perimeter defender, but I think his injuries really impacted on his athleticism, being able to keep up with players. And Draymond Green, yeah, he's a defensive anchor and they play well, but he needs to have more offensive production because that's what the NBA's come to now. Like you look at Ben Simmons because he can't shoot, he's been completely out of the NBA now. So I think you need more to your resume if you want to continue to perform at a high level at a high team. So no, I don't. I see this coming to an end. It has come to an end.
Rubes' answer to everything is just blow the team up. I don't think the dynasty's over at all. I think, I don't think they can rebuild from here. They've got 35-year-old Steph Curry. They've got 32-year-old Klay Thompson, and they're both on pretty big contracts. I you know I, it was a good season from the Golden State. You had Klay. You had Klay coming back from his injury, playing a full season. He had a bigger role this season than he did for the end of last season. And yeah, I think his defense, and I think they're all getting a bit older, but you still have Steph Curry who averaged 29, 6, and 6 this season. Even if they do need to get rid of Draymond, I think that core group was always Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and just built around that. And so I think that all they need is a few more pieces this off season, and they'll be straight back into contending next year. So I don't think the dynasty's over at all.
Did you see their away record?
Well, yeah.
The Warriors?
But they won the championship a year ago. And now you're saying blow the team up. It seems like a bit of an over exaggeration.
Well, no, I'm just saying you got to keep Steph, but no one else is stepping up to the plate.
But you've chucked money at Andrew Wiggins. You've chucked money at Jordan Poole. You got to stick with the group that you've thrown money at. So,
well, I like Steph and Wiggins. Everyone else is just questionable.
I just think you can't blow up a team that won a championship a year ago, and you've got to see it through a little bit more than that.
Listen,
I think it's a very big over exaggeration.
Listen. Steph Curry is the golden goose, okay, and he
always
has
was,
laid so many golden eggs, and you're going to continue to ride with him, and that's just what the Warriors have to do. They're not going to move on from Steph, and as long as Steph Curry plays it for the Golden State Warriors, I believe that they can compete for championships. Now,
I agree.
I do agree they need to make some moves. One of Jordan Poole or Draymond Green needs to go. I think particularly.
Get the bum-ass players out of here, bro.
We saw at the start of the season the incident that happened, and it clearly had some impact on the Warriors, Reuben. You mentioned the road record this year. Something wasn't right with this Golden State team all along. There was always some question marks about them. And they got past Sacramento, but no one was even really convinced by that. They weren't convinced with the road record, and no one was convinced they were going to beat the Lakers either. So I think that they can still compete for championships, and Klay Thompson's he's extension eligible. Now, the reports are that Klay Thompson is going to be asked to take a pay cut if they do sign him to an extension. And if there's one thing we know about Klay Thompson is he has quite the ego. We saw him throughout the whole season showing up his four fingers for the amount of rings he has. So I don't know how.
He already took a pay cut for Kevin Durant.
Well, he did. He did do that.
So we've seen him do things for the better of the team.
Yeah, I do agree.
Because this is his team.
I do agree. It just depends what he wants to do and how he views himself. But I think the Warriors.
But this team is his baby at the end of the day.
It is. I do agree. But I think the Warriors need to get some more youth. I don't know where they're going to get it from. But if I were the Warriors, even not youth, I would really try and pursue someone this offseason. I'd say the most realistic person because of free agency would be Chris Middleton. Obviously, he's not young, but I think he could add something to the team. Now, if you want to make a splash, and try get a player that will make an impact, I'm looking at someone like a Brandon Ingram. I'm looking at someone like an OG Anunoby, or I'm looking at someone like a Mikal Bridges. Now, realistically,
where's all this money going to come from?
No. Well, look, if they can work Jordan Poole into a trade somehow with a bunch of draft capital, that can be something that can realistically be done. Now, obviously, I can't remember who it was, but the asking price for Mikal Bridges was 4 first-round picks at the trade deadline, and there was 3 first-round picks for OG Anunoby. So, realistically, are they going to get these players? I don't think so. But the Warriors, I believe, while they still have Steph Curry, should really try and push the envelope and get some youthful players. Now, we are going to have to move on. Again, another topic to talk about in later episodes. But we have some predicting to do, guys, because now we have the conference finals. We had the Lakers and the Nuggets and the Celtics and the Heat. A bit of deja vu from the 2020 NBA bubble. The exact same teams in the conference finals, obviously under a bit of different circumstances this time from the bubble. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts as to if we will get a bubble rematch in the NBA Finals or if there will be a different outcome. We're going to start off with the Lakers and the Nuggets series, the 7-1 matchup. Now, a couple of things to note. The Lakers and the Nuggets split the season series 2 games apiece, and both games by each team were won at home. The average margin of victory for these games was 13 points. So they haven't played particularly close games this year. Now, last time they played in the conference finals, the Lakers handled the Nuggets in 5 games. Obviously, a bit different this time around. So, Oscar, I'm going to go to you first. Of who do you think wins this series, and in how many games is this series won?
I think, I can recognize that Denver this season is the most efficient team in the league, but I can't see the Lakers where the way they've been playing, that how everyone's stepping up, how LeBron steps up and scores 30 points when he needs to, and when AD does his thing. I can't see them losing, and I think they're going to win in 6. I think it's going to come down to obviously how Jokic and Murray and LeBron and AD plays, but also how that bench and how those role players can step up and play. So Denver's a great team. I just see the Lakers winning it because the way they're playing is very finals. It looks like they're finals bound. They look good out there. So I'm going to say Lakers in 6.
Okay, well, I think the Nuggets have the second best record at home. People always say it's tough to play in Denver because of the altitude. And
Yeah.
I've seen Jokic improve immensely in this postseason, unlike another center from Philadelphia. Because you look at Jokic, he's averaging 25, 12, and 10 in the regular season. That's gone up to 31, 13, and 10 in the playoffs, shooting 55% from the floor. That is ridiculous. Get that cap off, Oscar. So I just like how the Nuggets are built. They've had more chemistry. They're the number 1 seed for a reason. And mark my words, this is why this conference finals will come down and will prove to be the end of the Los Angeles Lakers. So I have the Nuggets winning in 5.
I think you're forgetting who LeBron James is, bro.
Shooting 30% from 3, yeah. That's a LeBron number.
Greatest player of all time, scored the most points of all time. It's tough to argue against the guy.
Yeah, look, Oscar, you took the words right out of my mouth with LeBron, but I'm going to get to that in a moment. Reuben, I agree with the stats you put out there. Jokic just had an incredible postseason.
Big stats guy, Rubes.
Jamal Murray's also averaging 25.6 assists in the postseason. We saw what Anthony Davis did to Jokic last time. He averaged 31 and 6 in the Western Conference Finals in the bubble. Now, obviously, we're a few years removed from that. But at the end of the day, as much
before his 2 MVPs.
As much as I like my stats, Reuben, sometimes you just got to look at the 2 teams. And when I look at these 2 teams, the Lakers are just a better team than the Nuggets. And I just believe that's what it comes down to. They're just better. And AD, I believe, is the one person that can really give Jokic problems on the offensive end. And I believe that AD will make Jokic work on defense more so than anyone who he has versed, because Rudy Gobert and DeAndre Ayton are not Anthony Davis. And as long as he stays healthy and continues to do what he does, the Lakers are going to win this series. Now, I have the opposite prediction to you, Reuben. I have the Lakers winning this in 5 games, as they did in the 2020 Western Conference Finals. However, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in 6 when they have the game on their home court, but I'm going to take them in 5 because I just believe that they are that much better than the Nuggets. Obviously, for both teams, very good depth. The Nuggets have also had players step up. We saw Bruce Brown in a Game 5 against Phoenix step up and score 25 points off the bench. So they have some X factors as well. But I just believe that when you look at the matchups, the Lakers are just better. And like Oscar said, this is LeBron James. Now, we saw for 5 games against the Warriors, he got everyone else involved. He was being a facilitator. He wasn't being ultra aggressive to try find his shot. And then in the Game 6, we see him come out and score 30 points and 70% field goal shooting and absolutely take the series over. We saw the same thing in a Game 4 against the Memphis Grizzlies to take a 3-1 lead. And LeBron, when he has the right mindset, he is the best player on the court at any given time. And I just don't think Denver has enough firepower to compete with the Lakers because I just believe they're a bit better at every position.
No,
Yeah,
I reckon. Yeah, look, LeBron, he's just shocking from three. I think you just got to let him settle for the jump shot. You like double team him because the Nuggets have a solid defense. I know they're not ranked highly, but they held Kevin Durant to 22% from the three, and
Yeah,
he's a sniper from three.
yeah.
And he's had games where he's shot 10 of 27, 12 of 31, 10 of 24. Like they're not good numbers for Kevin Durant. They were able to lock
No,
him up
no, they're
well.
not. Yeah. Look, I like the Nuggets, and I picked them to beat Phoenix quite convincingly because I believe they're a much better team than Phoenix. When I did my solo episode, my 5 bold predictions for the NBA playoffs a few weeks ago, before the playoffs started, I said that the Lakers would beat the Nuggets if they verse each other in the first round. Because I just think that of all the teams in the Western Conference, the one team Denver does not want to see is the Lakers. And I think we're going to really see why in this series. I think it's going to be a repeat of the 2020 bubble.
I agree that I agree with you, Rubes, that they were the best team in the regular season, and they have been playing fantastic basketball. But on this Lakers team, you have LeBron James, who is the best playoff performer we have ever seen. I'm a Michael Jordan fan saying that. Michael won 6 in a row. LeBron is the best playoff performer we have ever seen. So
Well, 2011, but okay.
when it comes down to it, 2016, he's averaged about 40 in the finals. But we'll move past that.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll move past that.
He's one of the best player performers we've ever seen, and you're giving him a guy, Anthony Davis, who's playing fantastic basketball that I don't think Nikola Jokic can hold because his aggressiveness and the way he moves and I just don't think Jokic can hold him to not many points. And I think Jokic, obviously, he's going to have production. Jokic always has production. But I think if anyone in this playoffs can hold Jokic's scoring, it's Anthony Davis. So,
Well, Jokic against AD this season was 23, 12, and 10. And I think it also comes down to what kind of AD we see. Because, not so much in the Warriors series, but in the Memphis series, it was like a roller coaster, like a really steep one. We see 25 and 15, but we can also see 14 and 8. So I think it also comes down to that as well. AD's got to be willing to play if they have a chance against the Nuggets.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, go Oscar.
I think we saw this series that, and especially with LeBron playing well and getting everyone involved, as Lucas said, I think we've seen AD at his highest AD at a high level. So I think that we're going to see a good AD, and I think LeBron will make us see a good AD because of how he affects the team, and I think that he will just outperform, maybe not outperform, but one-on-one outperform Nikola Jokic.
Yeah. Listen, I'll have the final word because we will have to move on to the next series. But in regards to AD, I think aside from that game 2, where he was low motor against the Warriors, I think from games 3 to 6, AD actually played quite consistently. Now, maybe this didn't show up completely in the box score, but I think a lot of the things he does on defense, and even in the closeout game, he had 20 rebounds in the closeout game, right? He only had 17 points, but he hustles on the boards and he provides defense, and he does a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet. So you're not going to get an AD that's going to give you 30 and 15, but you might get an AD that gives you a 15 and 20 or a 20 and 15 and plays his guts out. And I think that this
Chuck
is
a couple blocks in there.
and exactly, he's averaging 3.5 blocks for the postseason. So I believe that he doesn't need to average. I don't think AD needs to average a 30 to beat the Nuggets. He needs to average near that, and he needs to have some games where he can have that offensive explosion. But ultimately, I just believe that he has played with some better consistency, and he's really warmed up. So, with that being said, we are going to have to move on to the final series of the conference finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, where, we have a rematch not only of the 2020 conference finals in the bubble, but also of last year's conference finals. So we can see a bit of a pattern starting to emerge here with these two teams, the Celtics and the Heat. The Celtics won last year's conference finals in a 7-game series. They ended up closing Miami out in Miami, winning 100-96. Very good series. Tatum and Brown both averaged 25 points per game in that series. Marcus Smart averaged 17. Jimmy Butler didn't have much help in that conference finals series, but he played his guts off, just like he's been playing absolutely amazing in these playoffs. Now, both are coming off a bit different series. The Heat handled the Knicks in 6, and the Celtics only just finished their series. But, Reuben, I'm going to ask you, how do you see this series playing out? Who wins and in how many games?
Okay. Firstly, I got to give props to Jason Tatum for dropping 51. I don't rate him highly, but he performed really well. Um,
He's
but
only 19.
But but I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are very volatile shooters. Like as Doc Rivers said, it is a make and miss league. And I think if they were to win, they would have to play really well. Uh, I think for my predictions, how I decided it was I think I've looked at what the Heat have been able to do so far. Beating the Bucks, which were the best team in the NBA, was very impressive. Being able to shut down a star power of Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle, very impressive. And I don't
Star
see
power of
Celtics as much of
Julius
a
Randle. Come on, Reuben.
no, no, no.
You're
Well, no,
better than that.
he was wasn't he an All Star this season?
But
Julius Randle was a good player.
he wasn't playing like no star in these playoffs.
And Brunson was balling.
Brunson was balling.
Brunson was balling.
He was, but Randle was not in these playoffs.
Well, look, I've just seen what they've done against those two teams, and I don't think they should be scared of the Celtics. So that's why I have the Heat in 6.
I agree with Reuben there that the Heat are going to win the series. I think it's going to be in 7. I think the Celtics just came off a tough series where they had to shoot very, very well. And I think this Heat defense, we've seen it now in 2 series in a row, is ridiculously good. And they now have won 2 series that they shouldn't have won, even when Jimmy Butler was getting doubled all last series. So when you've got a team that is on this rush and has this momentum going into the next series, and then you've got this Celtics team which has momentum, obviously won it but had to go to 7 games. It looks like the Heat just have that edge there. I think that the Celtics are the better team. I just think that the Heat are gonna play well and have that momentum and are gonna lock up and make it very difficult for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to get hot and shoot. So I think Heat in 7.
Yeah, look, in the same way that I see the Lakers and the Nuggets series playing out, just in terms of matchups, I feel the same way about this series. And I give incredible props to what Miami has done this postseason. They have certainly shocked me. I knew they had what it takes, but I just didn't think they'd get past Milwaukee. But anyway, with that being said, I just think that the Celtics are just a very bad matchup for the Miami Heat. And we saw Miami win in the bubble, but at this point, I still believe that Tatum and Brown were still I still think they were puppies in this league. And I think last year, they saw that they can go 7 games and they can take out series. Now, I don't trust them in the finals, but in the Eastern Conference playoffs, I do trust them. Another thing that I want to get at is I believe that the adjustments that Joe Mazzulla made in that Philadelphia series, starting Robert Williams in that Game 6, who had the highest plus-minus in that Game 6, and continuing with him in Game 7, I think that Joe Mazzulla gained a lot of respect from his players, being a first-year head coach. And we saw Marcus Smart after the game, who's really the veteran leader for this team. He said that, he needed to make those adjustments, and he did. I don't think they were sold on Joe Mazzulla and how he was coaching. And I think after the Game 6 and 7 performances from the Celtics, I think they are right behind their head coach. and I think that they're going to take out this series. Look, Jimmy Butler averaged 25 points per game against the Knicks. His production was a bit down from
He got doubled the whole
He
series.
did. But Tatum averaged 29 against the 76ers. Brown averaged 23. Now, these two teams are very familiar with each other. And I understand what the Miami defense brings to the table. We just saw Boston shut down two former MVPs. So I don't think we can overlook that either. I think the Boston Celtics defense is also extremely good. Yeah, Marcus Smart, who's a defensive player of the year, former. Oscar, I know you don't particularly rate Marcus Smart, but he's been there. He's done that. Robert Williams is a great rim protector. Al Horford can also provide as a rim protector. And I still think that they will come up with it. Now, the thing that I also look at in last year's conference finals is Tyler Hero gave you 20 points a game in the conference finals last year. Now, he's not expected to return. Potentially very late in the series he could. But where I want to know where this production is going to come from now, because I believe that the Celtics are familiar enough with the Heat to game plan against them and to ultimately beat them. I have them in 7 games because I believe they are evenly matched. But I also just think that Boston are just a little bit better. Just like the Lakers are better than the Nuggets. I think Boston, when you just look at the matchups, they're just a better team. And that's just what my eyes tell me.
I agree with you that they're a better team. I just think I've made a mistake twice now of doubting Jimmy Butler, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. And I feel like I think Bam needs to have a bigger impact,
Max
big
needs to
impact.
shoot well from 3.
And yeah, obviously the whole team needs to shoot. Gabe Vincent as well needs to shoot well, and people need to shoot well. But I've doubted Jimmy Butler twice now. I'm not going to do it again. And well, I've doubted him once. You've doubted him twice.
Yep, I have.
And I'm not gonna make that same mistake. And I think Jimmy Butler's gonna make it a hell of a season. And this Heat defense, which I think is the best in the playoffs at the moment, are going to make sure that the production of the Celtics is not going to outweigh their production that they give the Celtics. So, yeah, I think
In the regular
Jimmy's gonna go.
season, when the Celtics and the Heat played each other, they're 2-2, and Jimmy Butler only featured in 2 of those games. And Bam has put up good numbers against them.
He
I
has.
searched it up. He's averaged 25-9 against the Celtics, off 57% from the field and
Yeah.
nearly 2 steals. So if he can have that production, I think that'll be enough. Because I've seen Jason Tatum, look, he had that 51-point game, and as you mentioned, Luka, he averaged 30, but he also, in one game, had only 7 points. And then in other games, he'll get 20, very
Yeah.
inefficient 20. So he needs to be more consistent if they want to have a chance against this Heat team because
Yeah,
they
I
play
agree.
very good defense.
I agree.
I mean, Jimmy Butler's on him.
Yeah,
Jesus
I do
Christ.
agree. Listen, we've seen them do it once last year. We've seen them do it before. We know they have what it takes. And I believe, like I said, with the adjustments Missoula made, I think he gained a lot of respect from his players he didn't previously have. And I believe the Celtics are getting hot at the right time. We will have plenty more to debate because the conference finals are starting tomorrow. The Lakers and the Nuggets tip off at 10:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Time, where we are. For the Americans, it's 8:30 p.m. on Monday night. No, that's a lie. Tuesday night. However, it will certainly be 2 great series to watch. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for Priceless Takes, episode 31. Oscar, Reuben, thank you again for being with me. Value your contributions. We will see you again next time. For those of you who already haven't, please make sure to follow us on social media. We have Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, as well as listening to the episodes on Spotify. We appreciate the engagement with the followers, and we are always posting, responding to comments and whatnot. But we will see you guys next time. That is all for Priceless Takes episode 31. I am your host, Luca Price. Thank you for listening.